Welcome. Good evening. We have some special visitors tonight. Savannah Reams will lead us in the prayer, followed by the pledge with Fredetia Marshall. Please stand.
Let us pray. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you so much for the Madison County School District. Thank you for every student, teacher, professional, every person who works hard on a daily basis to make sure our students get a better life and a wonderful education. We ask that you fill this room with your holy presence, Lord. Let every decision made and every word spoken give you glory and honor. In your name I pray. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good evening. Welcome to the January 15th special session. The Sunshine Law requires that the school board meet and perform its duties in public. This is a meeting in public. It is an opportunity for the board to discuss and make decisions about its stated agenda. Citizens have the right to observe the meeting and hear all comments made by the board members. School board meetings, however, are not a meeting of the public, an opportunity for the public to comment during meetings. On behalf of my fellow board members, at this time I would like to invite and encourage members of the audience to sign up regarding district issues. Please begin by stating your name. You will be limited to 3 minutes. We will not be acting on the issues tonight unless they are on the agenda. Thank you for attending and supporting the Madison County school system. I'd like to add something to that tonight. Please know that what I'm about to say is not a reflection of the entire board. I want to state that I am not in favor of closing any schools at this point in time. We need to address immediate concerns that will affect the fund balance right now. In the future, we may have to come back and address how we operate our schools. Thank you. If any board members would like.
I thoroughly agree with Ms. Gibson and have the same sentiments.
Any other?
I too would like to also say that at this time, I'm also in favor of keeping all the schools open within our outlying schools. We as a board have got to address our overstaffing within the district. We're overstaffed to the point that that's what's placed us in this financial hardship. And until that is addressed, I don't see that it's going to help us in any way cutting these positions until we know that has been eliminated, because we're very overstaffed at this time. And I agree with what Ms. Gibson has said.
And I also concur. We, as a district, we have many other options, and closing any school, it should be far, one of the options that we look at or consider the least. So I am totally 100% against closing any of our beautiful schools.
Thank you. I have the list. If anyone cares to sign up. Everyone is signed up that wants to speak? All right. Ms. Jetta Roberts.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Jetta Roberts, and I am a proud teacher at the Madison County Central School. I also represent many of the staff in the district as the district's union president for MCEA. I would like to implore the board, one of the items on the agenda is a review of the fiscal study and to take recommendations from the superintendent. I know you all said that you are not going to take any action tonight, and I'm happy to hear that. I also heard you say that you don't look at closing any of the schools, and that's the information that many of the people in this room heard. and we are very, very, very grateful that that's where we are right now. But I also know that as a part of the fiscal study, that's item number 6 in that study, and it will come from the recommendations tonight. So I hope that you guys will continue to hold true to what you gave all of our people here tonight. I also ask that the recommendations that come forth, before you guys look at cutting or accepting a cut in any of the positions at the district and the level of our faculty and staff, that you look at the implications for all of our students, the community, our faculty and staff, and how it's going to affect the education that our students are already receiving in every school. One of the things that I also want you guys to look at is taking an opportunity to lay out all the finances and make sure that we've cut from every other place before we look at affecting our community and all of our people's livelihoods. At this time, that's all I have, because we don't have every bit of the information that we know we're going to receive tonight, and I wish that the public input would be after we had received the information.
Thank you,
all.
Ms. Roberts. Cynthia James.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Cynthia James, and I'm a current member of the Greenville Town Council. I am also the wife of Maurice James and mother of Mark Leonard and Chris Thompson, who both attended Greenville Primary and Greenville Elementary schools. Both have graduated from FSU and have very successful careers. Some of Greenville's successful students hold positions as professional fitness trainers, coaches, teachers, professional athletes, ANRPs, nurses and directors of nursing, doctors, pharmacists, one who has a PhD and serves as the Bureau Chief of Epidemiology, a financial analyst for Raymond James, accountants, police officers, FBI agent, agriculture agent, state representative, real estate agents, and many other careers and professional careers. Without a heart, the body dies. And Greenville is the heart of our town. So if you take our school, our community dies. Our school has produced many successful men and women that still reside in Greenville. We're small, but we're proud. My love for Greenville began in 1990 when I moved here. I had the pleasure of meeting Mr. George Pridgeon, a former principal of Greenville Elementary. He knew every child, he knew their family, and he knew where they lived. The teachers and support staff, likewise. And this has continued to this day. Moving from a city to Greenville, it was challenging from a large town to a smaller town. The teachers I've met over the years have been outstanding. They have the best interests of our school, our students, and families of our community at heart. They have worked extremely hard to bring our school up to a B. The staff of Greenville Elementary has a genuine love and concern for our school as a whole. They love the children and the family. I wish that other alternatives, which I'm finding out now, should include all areas of the community, assuming responsibility for the deficit and thereby should not make cuts. Cuts should be made across the board. To my knowledge, the board has not met with the parents, citizens, or the town of Greenville concerning possible closure. It's unethical to pull our kids from a B school to a C school. In closing, we're asking that you don't close our school because it is vital to our community.
Thank you, Mrs. James. I cannot read the next name. It begins with a B. Okay. Sorry.
I come to address this matter today on the behalf of our students, our residents, and most of all, our children. I'm a longtime citizen of Greenville, Florida. I have 4 children that attend that school, and I also did too, family members and others. I'm here today on the behalf of the matter of our school closing. My concern is that our kids need a school to attend in Greenville. It's a lot of history and roots and background there. We have our class reunion, And we also have other things going on in the area. Boys and Girls Club, for as I'm concerned, in our behalf, the kids are really good students. Their grades have really increased it. Our teachers is doing a very good, great job on behalf of teaching our students. And my concerns is today is why is it? Why haven't nobody come forth earlier with the matter? That way we can do something about the issue before now.
Thank you very much. Lindsay Plummer.
Good evening, members of the board and fellow constituents. My name is Lindsay Plummer. I'm the SAC committee chair from Greenville Elementary School. And I echo the same sentiments that the two previous folks that have come up here have said. In the outlook of time, they have pretty much said what I would have said. I have questions. Some of you have received a list of questions or the letter that I sent to Dr. Pickles. Dr. Pickles, I am sorry that you have not received it yet. That's on the U.S. Post Office, not me. It was sent certified mail. Your colleagues got it before you did, but that's not my error. I don't know how something can go from Greenville to Tallahassee and not make it to Madison in a timely manner, and this was mailed on Thursday. So I apologize for that, but I can't apologize for the U.S. Post Office. The questions I have, I will hold since you have already stated that no action will be taken until you do a further look into what's going on and how you can better serve or make cuts to the budget and fund what we need. But one thing I would suggest to everyone in this room, it's got to come down from Tallahassee. Funding has been cut. We need to send a message to Tallahassee to fund our schools. I know you're going to do the best job that you can. We look forward to that, and anything that we can do to help you, we will. We stand ready to help. We stand ready to serve. And do, by all means, get us involved. Don't work in a silo and we find out later on that things are going to be done, which gets the community upset and everybody else. Be transparent about what you do. That's the only way you're going to make this work. I thank you for your time, and Godspeed in what you got to do. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Plummer. All right, we'll go to our agenda.
Ms. Gibson, I think Mr. Williams would like to.
Oh, Mr. Williams?
Thank you. Good evening. I decided that I would come up and just say a few words relative to the issues that are at hand. Irregardless of what emotions and traditions and other life experiences may be, this is a dollar and a cents issue. It is dealing with the fiscal responsibility that this district is sworn to uphold. This issue of dealing with our schools has not just cropped up within the last couple of years. This has been going on for a while. And I would only say to you all as a board that the Band-Aid approach is not working. The money comes from Tallahassee. If Tallahassee gives no other money than what they've been giving, this board has got some hard choices to make. There are many communities all over this state who have decided, because they weren't getting additional monies from the state, that they would have local tax referendums where they would, the local taxpayers, would take the responsibility to keep the schools open in the manner that they want to do. Just saying no is not going to make it any better. You got to do something. And so I stand tonight to say we can plow ahead and say we're not going to deal with this, or we're going to deal with it further down the road. And I'm telling you right now, you're going to die with the knife of 1,000 cuts. It is better to deal with an issue, be transparent in dealing with that issue, talk about it with whomever you need to discuss. Because the truth of the matter is, you don't want to end up like Jefferson. Jefferson had years where they were below the recommended fiscal balance for the school district. And the state put them on watch. The state put them under state support, where the state was even helping them. And it got no better. And now they are the first real public charter school district in the whole state of Florida. And once they get that way, they're not going back. So I say to you, say no all you want to, but you got to do something. And the way to do something is to figure out how you can deal with your declining enrollment, and you can deal with all the other things that zap money out of the system. Because I'm here to tell you, you're not going to be able to cut enough personnel to take care of your shortfall.
Thank you, Mr. Williams.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I know time is up. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I just needed to say that.
Okay. We have recommendations from a fiscal study that was done. Our first one is recommend elimination of specific positions from the staffing allocation plan. In order to do so, we will need to hold a special meeting on January 24th, 2019 at 6 o'clock at the Madison County High School cafeteria for the discussion and voting of the reduction in force of the identified positions. Is there a motion to approve this recommendation?
I make the motion to approve the recommendation of the elimination of the specific positions from the staff and allocation plan.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All right. We have a motion by Mr. Alford, second by Ms. Williamson, to eliminate the elimination of specific positions from the staffing allocation plan. In order to do so, we will hold the meeting on January 24th, 2019 in the cafeteria. Any discussion or questions? By a show of hands, all in favor? Opposed? Becky, 5-0. All right. Another recommendation, recommend the implementation of a hiring freeze and identify crucial positions be identified and filled on an OPS, which is Other Personnel Services, temporary basis for the balance of the year. Is there a motion to approve?
I make the motion to approve a hiring freeze.
Second.
Second.
We have a motion by Ms. Williamson, second by Mr. Alfred, for a hiring freeze in Madison County. Any discussion or questions?
I would like to say at this point, I feel it is very essential that any open position we have in this school district be filled with a certified teacher within the district. It is hard to even imagine that we have classes still at Central, tested FSA classes, that are without a teacher. And at this point, if someone is out of the classroom and they hold a valid Florida certificate, they need to be put in the classroom.
I agree, Mr. Alfred, definitely. And we do have teachers that are not in the classroom.
We do, and that needs to be, in my opinion, done immediately. The FSA is coming. This is the 15th of January. And they've had a whole semester without it. I think there's some here at the high school that maybe is in the same boat. I mean, that needs to be addressed. When we have people in this district in hallways telling people what to do, and they have a valid Florida certificate, they need to be in the classroom. They need to be in the classroom. Every student in this district deserves to have a teacher.
Right. Let's hold the noise down, please. Everyone has to be able to hear. Thank you.
So I'm asking fellow board members, at what date do we ask for it to be that these positions are filled?
We're going to be talking about the elimination of positions on January 24th,
So
which
would
is
that,
next Thursday.
so would that be a good date for if positions are eliminated, then possibly people would want to go into?
If they want to have a job, I'd say go for it. You know, I
Okay.
mean, if my position was eliminated and I was a teacher and there was a teaching spot available, I think I'd take it.
Okay. So if it pleasures the board, I think then by that night, those positions need to be filled by the time we leave that meeting,
Okay.
this meeting.
Is it the pleasure of the board?
Yes.
Okay, it's agreed then. So the decisions will be made on the 24th of January, and we'll go forth from that point. Next.
We need to take a vote.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. Do we have a motion to approve the hiring freeze and identify crucial positions to be identified and filled?
We already have a motion.
It was
and
by
a
Ms.
second.
Williamson, I
We
was
just
the
need to vote.
second.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, we got our discussion going, okay. All right, all those, by show of hands, let's raise our hand, please, if you approve it. Oppose? 5-0, Becky. All right, excuse me. Recommend closure of Greenville Elementary School in 2019-20 due to low enrollment.
Madam Chair, if I would like to point out
Yeah.
things from the fiscal study, if we may. You all should have your copy
Right.
of the study, and you should have the one where I highlighted certain things through the study.
Right.
The study went back all the way to prior to the recession in 2006, 2007. So this is a long study. It's also my understanding that our prior two superintendents had a similar study. So our prior two superintendents have received the same information. We have an unassigned fund balance. We have to strengthen that fund balance. When I was elected to the board, the fund balance was around 12%. When I was elected superintendent, the fund balance was around 4%. I was given a sheet of paper, and that was very alarming because I know when I was on the board, we kept asking for financials, and we were not receiving that. And so that was kind of concerning.
If I could stop you right there. Now, we have a big audience here, and when you say fund balance, can you explain what that means?
That's our unrestricted monies that we can pay teacher salaries for, pay these raises. And this year, Mr. Copeland, it was $264,000, $267,000 total for our automatic steps, roughly, and about $250,000 out of our general fund estimate. So every year when we pay our automatic steps, it's roughly about $250,000 coming out of that unassigned fund balance. So when we pay this money, when we do not have a very healthy fund balance, we're reducing that money. The state requires us to have a 3% fund balance, which is what I'm fixing to talk about. We have to remain financially stable for unexpected expenditures, which is what we've just had happen with our third calculation, and to keep the district healthy for our credit ratings. It's very important. We've had a FTE loss and a recalibration. We've had students that have left the district. We've gone through just from August to October and gone through the count. We've accounted to, they've moved out of state, out of county to other districts. We've had some deaths. We've had homeschools. So it's interesting. Some things have been blamed on students moving to charter schools. Our charter school, Madison Creative Arts, is capped. These students are not necessarily moved to the charter school. We've actually done some comparisons. James Madison Preparatory High School, their enrollment was down. Our high school enrollment was down. So we're not seeing our students leaving our high school and going to our charter high school. So they're not leaving, they're actually leaving the county. So we have a declining enrollment. Mr. Stolnacker, would you pull up? I want to at least look at our, since we're talking about Greenville a minute, since it is a recommendation, but I do have at least our three. And I know for those in the back, it's not going to be easy to see, but I can read out some of the numbers. And this is public information. You can pull this up at home. It's on the fldoe.org website. And I'll wait for, oh, it's logged us out. Yes, it's kicked me out too. And if you'll go under there and go to the school accountability, the portal, and you can go to the pre-K through 12 website, and it's all this public information and the enrollment data about districts. So you can look at your neighboring districts. The model we use to project our FTE, when we had to do our projections, you can choose different models. So the projection model projected our enrollment in October to be up 45. It actually originally projected us to be up much higher, but we knew our charter schools were capped and could not take any more enrollment. So we backed it off, and it still projected us to be up at 45. That we actually then had a loss of FTE at actually 116 for an overall deficit of 162. So we lost just over $1 million. We were originally started speculating that it was going to be $1.1 million to the district. So when we started realizing this, we started number crunching. So to the public schools, we were thinking it was going to be about $750,000. We're estimating now, after some budget amendments, it's between $500,000 and $600,000, which will now mean we have to do some cuts, a reduction in force. We do not have a choice. So that's what then gets to this. I knew that when I had requested, prior to even knowing any of this, I had already requested this fiscal study because of trying to strengthen our fund balance. I was elected because people thought I could make a difference. I was elected to make the hard decisions. I knew I would be unpopular, but I was elected to do a job. That's fine. I will do that. So I'm trying to solidify our fund balance. And if that means recommending closing one school, recommending closing all schools. I have a school right next door that has a seat capacity of 1,800. There is just over 1,000 students. I will get called and reminded of that. I have to be very aware of that too. So I think there was circulation out that there were 400 students in Greenville. That is not true. So our FTE numbers, oh, I haven't pulled it on up, I'm sorry. Let me go to my enrollment. You'll see our decline in enrollment for these are 5-year outlooks. The first school, do you have Greenville up there, Mr. Stolnacker?
That's Greenville.
Greenville's number, we'll start with Greenville. They're alphabetical. For the past 5-year cycle, give me just a minute. I'm still having to log back in. So our past 5-year cycle, 2014-15, there were 147 students. 15-16, there were 143. 16-17, there were 115 students. And 17-18, there were 135. 18-19, there were 124. Now, Ms. Beulah and Mr. Lindsay, and then there were 2 other community members I met with, or I did meet, I've also told the town manager, you have to get this enrollment up at this school. So not knowing is, I have told. So I have been telling you have to find a way. So the town manager knew, and your former SAC president I know knew. So they have been told to increase the enrollment there because students were leaving and transferring to Central. So I did want to address that. So back to our other schools. Let's look at
Excuse me? Thank you.
Lee Elementary. We have a declining enrollment even at Lee. 14-15, they were 266. 15-17, 272. 16-17, 242. 17-18, 230. 18-19, 218. So you see a trend here at Pinetta. Come on, switch for me. And then at Pinetta, 14-15, we had 202. We little bit stable, 210, 208, 208, and then 197 this year. So you see our historical trends. So we're not like increasing. We have a declining enrollment. We get a categorical line item for declining enrollment because our district's numbers are constantly reducing. So I did want to point that out. I encourage you to go and look at that. Back some other things I did want to point out. We can't continue. I want to try to strengthen our salaries. I want teachers not to just come and stay a year or two, but I can't continue to try to keep paying these raises every year and paying it out of my fund balance when I'm trying to build my fund balance back up. I need people to stay long-term, and that's a problem. We have no industry here. We have nothing to keep people here. So it's not that I don't want to pay people. I don't want people to think that. The other thing I wanted to plan out and talk about, we need early planning. It takes time to inform the community if this is something that's going to be done. We have to plan for future. What are we going to do with our excess facilities? There are other people that might be interested in them. So we have to notify these things, notify people. So we need to let people know about them. So we have challenges. We have the fiscal challenges here that we've got to address. So this report gives us all the information and data. Over on, it's very interesting. Transportation, we have budgeted $1.4 million for this year. After our recalibration, we will only be funded at 34%. I don't know exactly which year the board, because this was prior to me, even coming on the school board, there was a rezoning of the transportation routes, but we increased up to about 45% funding. We are now only funded at 34% after this recalibration. So we're going to have to look at our transportation, doing something different. So there's different things that affect how we're funded. So we need to consider that. So while we have $1.2 million less in revenue, our expenses have still increased. Instructional materials increased. So we have to think about that. Our fuel costs have increased. Our electricity has still increased. So things have increased. Life still goes on, so to speak. So we have to think about that. The biggest thing for me, and I've tried to stress that to Ms. Roberts, Students and teachers are still my focus. That has to be what makes and drives every decision we make. So right now, I have 4 teacher vacancies at Central. So it was a little misleading the way the newspaper reported that Greenville was closed and that teachers would all lose their jobs. Guess what? Those kids, if they come to Central, I still need teachers. Plus, I have 4 vacancies right now. I'm doing such a disservice to our kids at Central. Does anybody stop and think about our kids here? I need a teacher for these kids. So, yes, I have to think about all the kids in this district, not just 124 kids or 130 kids at one school.
Excuse me. Thank you.
I have to consider all the kids. So if you look over, and not everybody has the report, Calhoun County in this report was compared to us and like size, and this data was from 2 years ago, so this was the year I was elected, so I inherited all the staff at that time. Same number of students, and we were overstaffed at that time. We will make cuts. I've already identified cuts. I've met with Ms. Roberts in the union today, gave her a list of cuts. We will have to probably add to that list some more and identify some more to have to do it. I'm trying to do the least impact on people, but meet the budgetary restraints that we're going to have to face, because we will, with this, we will fall below the 2%, and we have to address that. But we cannot continue, as Mr. Williams said, Pastor Williams said, I can't just put the Band-Aid. I can't keep patching things. So we have to come up with solutions we have to stop the bleeding.
What is our current fund balance?
As of this moment, without any staff personnel
moment.
reductions, it would be 1.7.
I want to speak to the fund balance. Dr. Pickles has made mention of increasing it. When Ms. Williamson and I were elected to the board in 2002, we had a low fund balance, and from that time, we built up the fund balance to the highest being 12%. And how we built it up was, during that time, is we really took a look at positions. We were overstaffed at that time. We made cuts. There was a hiring freeze. We scrutinized what we were spending, and it was just through frugal management that we did that, and that is what we're going to have to do here. This just didn't occur overnight. This has been the last couple of years that people have retired, we've had students to leave, and we continue to fill positions that should have been not filled. It's everyone sitting here's fault because we've done it, and now we have to step up and we have to do what we need to do to cut it, because if not, like what Dr. Pickles is saying, the bleeding will not stop. This is not, and I don't even know that bringing in the outlying schools is going to help it unless you cut the staff that you have hired and you're overstaffed. I mean, we have positions that are overstaffed, and at that time, maybe during Superintendent Miller's time, we did a staff and allocation plan, and based upon what the school generates is what you should have there. And that's where you get in trouble, is if we only have 124 students at Greenville, we only should be staffing for 124. I mean, it's a small school, it will be a small school, but that's where the district gets in trouble, is when we start trying to do what Central has at Greenville, or maybe what is at Lee with 250 students, and you only have 118 or 120 at Greenville. That's where we get into financial difficulty. Or when we had the DJJ and we had 25 students and we were so overstaffed and it was coming to about $15,000 per student to educate them. At that point is when we get into financial difficulty, and we have to take a very hard look at that. With the outlying schools, they have to operate on what they generate, or there's no way we're going to be able to be where this is within the black. I mean, it has to be that, and we've said that for years. But the staffing on top being overstaffed and us not doing that has created a snowball effect to where we can't stop the ball coming down the hill. And it's got to be first stopped with the cutting of the staff, and then holding these outlying schools to the line that they have to operate on what they generate. If not, then I'm sorry. I mean, with less than 100 and with less than 200 students, that does not generate a principal. It would generate a lead teacher. In reality, every school needs a principal, but if you want your school, you're going to have to do what we can do that we can afford. And you have to be realistic about it. That hasn't been brought up, but I'm bringing it up right now. If these outlying schools stay open and you drop less than 200 kids, you're going to have a lead teacher if you want to keep the school. And you're going to have to be frugal with the air, and teachers who teach there may have to do things that teachers who teach in bigger schools who have more resources don't have to do. That's just the reality of it. So again, I do think that the fund balance can be brought up, Dr. Pickles, but again, it's going to take us being very frugal, scrutinizing everything that's spent, and holding the outlying schools to operate on what they generate. If not, we'll never do it. And again, you can close down all the outlying schools, but if we do not stop the bleeding from the overstaffing within the district at the county office level, at the school level, all level, we're not going to be able to do it, in my opinion. That's my opinion, and there's other opinions up here, but I've been here too long to see that how we built up our fund balance was not spending money. It's
Well,
as simple as that.
That's what you have to do. If we don't have the money, we can't spend it. Now, we will say that Greenville's begun to get streamlined. I mean, we've started the
Right.
process.
And I will say, I appreciate them. Again, no teacher, I work in a school, no one wants to change classes in the middle of the year. But if you know that that's going to be what's going to be able to help keep your school open, I would do it. I mean, and again, I regret as a board member that we, or I regret that y'all weren't informed of how dire this is. This is very serious. This is very serious, and I know that everyone here wants to do all they can to keep their community school open, and we do too. But as a sitting board, the board is ultimately responsible for the budget. It's not the superintendent, it's not the finance officer, it is the board. And so at the end of the day, when we have exhausted all these measures and it still falls short, then we will have no option. But as a board member, I want to make sure that we have done all the options we can do in order to, at the end of the day, where we can feel good that we've done all we can. And if we can't do it, there's a probability we won't be able to do this. But at the end of the day, at least we've tried everything. So that's what I'm asking as a board member, that if you're at those schools, you have got to try to work with us and not say I'm not doing it, or even at any level in the district, if the superintendent asks someone to do something, that shouldn't be the response, I'm not going to do it. It should be, what can I do? And we have had those responses. And again, as a board, we're doing all we can, but at some point, the community or the schools have to do it. And I'm not saying that they're not, but I'm saying the cold, hard reality of your outlying schools, they're going to have to operate with what they generate. And if not, then there's no way that it's going to be able to work.
My biggest thing as far as the outlying schools is, my biggest thing is I just say that we be fair across the board. I hear from a lot of my constituents in Greenville, and they feel as if they're being picked out to be picked on, so to speak. And so, we have more outlying schools as opposed to just Greenville. So my thing is, let us be fair across the board. And also, in addition to what Pastor Williams was saying, I just wanted to expound on that just a bit. It's similar to how we had the community-based or community-level committees when we were trying to get Central's grade up from lower performing D to a C. I think we should consider doing the same thing as far as our fiscal responsibilities, and appoint some community-based members so that we can have input from the community. Man, I've heard from a lot of folks the last week or so. Phone been ringing off the hook. And they had some very, very interesting points that they made. Similar to, driving, sometimes there are blind spots. And a lot of our community members, they can see a lot of those blind spots. So moving forward, I say, as we try to come together to try to figure out a plan of getting that fund balance up, let us also involve the community as well.
Very good points. As I said, I'm a proponent of small schools. I feel like people buy into their small schools. I was raised in a small school myself. But we also have to realize the money situation. We have to honor the taxpayers. They're the ones supporting this. We have beautiful schools out there. But then again, that's not my first line of action, closing down schools. I'm not in the business of closing down schools. As a matter of fact, to me, when I go to these schools, which I'm in there regularly, I see they're thriving. And I'd like to see them continue that way, but I'm a realist also. But in the meantime, on January 24th, we will address the excess that we have, and that's got to be taken care of, no matter what shape we're in. It should have been, it's got to be taken care of.
Ms. Gibson, I agree with what Mr. Daniels said, and one reason that maybe Greenville may feel that is just, as the board, our lack of communication to them is being as transparent. And I agree. I think you should know from the beginning where we're at. I mean, I don't know that anyone has said to this point about a lead teacher, but again, if you have less than 200 students, that is the next step of trying to be financially sound. And I agree that with Mr. Daniels that maybe why people are feeling that way is just poor communication, that if they had all the facts and knew what was what, maybe those feelings wouldn't be as great.
Well, actually, this is a very current problem. I mean, as of
Right.
December, we had a fund balance of 4.7. So, I mean, when you are there, you feel good. I felt we are in good shape. But then the FTE and all this rolled into, so really, it's not like we've been knowing this for months or
No,
anything like
it's-
that.
I got something to say. I've been on the board for 6 weeks. A lot of this stuff, I inherited, you know what I'm saying? But I do want to do what's best for this county. And if it comes to the state taking over these schools, the district schools, and closing the outskirt schools, I will vote to close these outskirt schools. We got to do what is best for the whole school, the whole district. It's not that I don't love Greenville. I love Greenville. But we're looking at all of the students. I'm looking at all of the students in this county. Maybe everybody ain't agree.
Excuse me? Thank you.
Everybody ain't gonna agree. And I know people tag me to Greenville. I love Greenville. My children went there. Every student there, just about, I know them. I live in Greenville. But it doesn't change the fact that we're in a financial crisis and we're gonna have to do something. If y'all want jobs to be cut, I don't want nobody to lose their job. So there's many things that are coming down the pipes, and we got to do what's best for Madison County as a whole. I do not want our schools taken over just like Monticello. It will be ludicrous to think that it will be okay. We're dealing with a lot of issues here. Do I know all the answers? There's a lot of people in here that called me, and I talked to each and every one of them. I asked for suggestions because I want to know what we can do. I opened the floor for people to call me. I told people to tell people to call me because I want what's best for all of them. I can't look at one part of this, and my feelings and my love for these one school cannot be where it affects the whole county. We got to do what's best for all of our students.
My thing
And
is,
if I'm on the hit list for that, 5 years from now, 3 years from now, 2 years from now, and y'all come to me and say, well, I might not be here in 4 years, but 3 years from now, y'all come to me and say, how did we allow this to happen? How did we allow our schools to be taken over by the state? Ms. Pickles have shown us the recommendations that are coming down from the state. These people are not playing with us. They're not sugarcoating anything. Of course there are ways of getting this money, but I don't want people to lose their job. The list might be long. It might be you. You don't even know whose name on the list. You don't know who's going to be affected. We're in a government shutdown. Them people didn't expect this government to be shut down as long as it was. We got to look at more suggestions, and I want to do what's best for Greenville and Lee and Pine Needle, because from my understanding, it was all 3 schools. It wasn't just Greenville. It was published just Greenville, but it was all 3 schools. It was Lee, Pine Needle.
Excuse me, we have to be able to hear. Thank you.
It was Lee, Pine Needle, and Greenville. I know Greenville spoke the loudest because that's how they do. But it was Lee, Pine Needle, and Greenville. I'm talking about being very supportive. Y'all don't take this out of context.
Excuse me, we will shut the meeting.
Don't take this out of context, and you know exactly what I'm saying. I'm saying that we all come together at these times. Don't take this out of context, because that's what y'all gonna try to do. That ain't what I meant. I meant that Greenville knows how to gather their people and get together and know how to fight. That is exactly what I'm not trying to belittle Greenville. That's right. So don't put that out that Sharetta Bell came up there and classified Greenville as a certain type of people. No, I did not. I am telling you right now, it's about all of the students in Madison County.
Excuse me, if we can't quiet, we're going to have to stop the meeting for a recess.
When push comes to shove at the end of the day, and I'm one of those people, when push comes to shove at the end of the day, I want to make sure that I knew I did all what I could do, not just for one child, not for just one teacher, not for just one school, but I did it for every child, every teacher, and every school in Madison County. Is there things that need to be looked at? Yes. Yes. And I know that we in a financial crisis. Things are going to be done. Things are going to be done. Am I saying close the schools, close the school? If we can find ways, I ask people, I don't want, the people that talk to me, I don't want our schools to be closed. I do not want to do that. But I don't want the state to take over them either. I don't want to get into a deficit that we can't make that money up and be able to do what we need to do. And that's the truth of the matter. And I'm going to tell you the truth. Whenever you see Sharetta Bell, I will be telling you the absolute truth. I'm not going to sugarcoat nothing, and I'm not doing it for a position. I'm sitting up here because I want what's best for our children. I want what's best for our teachers. We need good teachers. We need good administrators. We need what's best for our kids. The thing that's going on right now is not only going on right here. It's going on in Madison County. It's going on across the state of Florida, and it's also going around straight across the country. We have issues to be dealt with, and it's the truth. And I'm going to tell you the truth. Am I the bad guy? I'm sorry. I am so sorry that you feel that way. But let's work together as a team and get this done. We've got to do what's best. And then, you know, we're looking at friends of a friend of a friend. We're not, that ain't what's happening. That's not what's happening. The numbers are proof. Put them up there. Put them up there and let us see. I thought hard about it and I prayed hard about it. I love Greenville. A lot, like Miss Cynthia said, there are very good people that come out of Greenville, but there's very good people that came out of Madison. There's very good people that came out of Lee, and there's very good people that came out of Pine Needle. We got some tough decisions to make. And are we going to wait until tomorrow? Are we going to wait for them to grow so big that we can't cap it down? I always talk about a forest fire. If you're going to start if you start a campfire, if you don't contain that campfire, it will spread. It will become a forest fire, and it will destroy everything about us. I hate to, I'm expressing my thoughts and my feelings because I'm trying to get y'all to understand. I am not telling y'all to close outlying schools. I'm telling y'all to do what's best for our students. And if push come to shove, and you had a choice, if you had a choice of letting the state take over our schools and closing outlying schools so we would still have a voice, what would you do?
Thank you, Ms. Bell. You've given us some valid points to think about. Ms. Williamson, did you have something to say?
Okay.
All right. Dr. Pickles?
Well, I did want to point out, the FTE is down across the state. Hamilton County, I can just give you some numbers. Hamilton County lost just under 600,000. Suwannee County lost 500,000. Franklin County lost about 250,000. Leon County lost 3 million. So it's interesting when you look at our third calculation. So there's districts that planned one way, but when the numbers came back, I know Wakulla had planned differently, and they were talking about they had not had this kind of adjustment before. So when you're talking to your neighboring superintendents, they had planned accordingly one way, and then our calculations came back differently. So based on some other information and recommendations, I've already been going through trying to see how I can eliminate administrative positions. Is this position truly necessary? Is it needed for student performance and safety? It's not about a person. It is truly what's in the best interest of students. So as I started going through the list I gave Ms. Roberts, it was a matter of, can I eliminate this one? And I think I eliminated 5 or 6. I don't remember how many I actually gave her on the list.
5 or 6
administrative positions. And then a number from the principals, I went by added the recommendations they gave me. So, and we talked about the ones that affected the union members that they would have to address. So we went over, and I'll have the list for you, hopefully tomorrow, for you to go ahead and go through. And we'll go through that. So, and as we discussed in our board retreat, I mean, I had already told you I would cut half of the district administrators. So,
Well, like we said, we have to remember that we don't have, this district is not the same as it was 5, 10, 15 years ago. So we have to proceed accordingly. You know, we don't have the students, so we don't need all the people that we've had before. So.
It's about making sure we can sustain programs, and making sure everything is what's best for students and student performance.
Right.
So, and seeing what things are we duplicating anything, or any services being duplicated, things like that. So we still, and most of these recommendations I tried to combine, but overall, eliminating things to try to build that fund balance.
Thank you, Dr. Pickles. We'll go back to our recommendations from the fiscal study. Recommend closure of Greenville Elementary School in the 2019-20 due to low enrollment. Is there a motion to approve? Motion dies for lack of a motion. All right. Recommend a reevaluation of the current staffing allocation plan to include a review of the custodial allocation formula and elimination of any vacant positions.
The custodial allocation formula, that was one of the recommendations. There was some questions about the square footage, things like that. So I'll have to check with some neighboring districts and see theirs. So that's the reason that's added in there. And
Okay.
then we had already started looking at the staffing allocation plan as
Right.
it was.
We have
So
looked at that for
I
sure.
kind of tossed out the one we worked on at our board retreat
Okay,
and figured we would just streamline it even more.
all right, thank you. Is there a motion to approve?
I make the motion to approve the recommended reevaluation of the current staffing allocation plan.
Second?
Second.
We have a motion by Mr. Alfred, second by Ms. Williamson to reevaluation of the current staffing allocation plan. Any discussion or questions? By a show of hands, all in favor? Oppose? 5-0, Becky.
Madam Chair, if I can address
Yes.
these other recommendations. Those recommendations came from the fiscal study. Madison County Central School put out a suggestion box, and people anonymously could put in suggestions, and then they brought the box to me, and I unsealed it and went through. In fact, one night in my floor, I had them all spread out. A couple of people emailed me suggestions, and one person called me. So I took a lot of those suggestions and put them there. And then I did have people ask me if I was going to recommend closure of the 2 outlying schools. And I do know that Greenville does feel like I was picking on them. And I tried to make it very clear it was in a written report. So, these are recommendations for further exploration. Plus, I also need some guidance. If the board has no interest in exploring these, I don't want to waste my time, staff time, and exploring and going through any further with this. So as Greenville was recommended in this fiscal study, due to their low enrollment, recommend the closure of Lee and Pinetta for the 1920. And if not, recommend at least enrollment monitoring. Based off, Mr. Alford, you had suggested lead teacher with an enrollment of 200.
I still honestly think that we need to go back and hone in on whatever students you have there, whatever that generates is what we fund. If that staff and allocation formula is followed, then we still may be in trouble, but it's not going to be in the trouble we're in currently.
I have put staff and administrative shifts may need to be eliminated if enrollment drops, which is what you're saying.
Absolutely, and again, it needs to look at the service delivery model in that your leader, if you're below the 200, that needs to be looked at. You need to look at class size. If you have classes that have 10 and 10 in a class, they need to be combined. You need to look at all avenues. If you have one class you may have a multi-age class or a multi-grade, like a first, second combo. We did that before at Greenville and Lee. So we need to look at all areas to be as frugal and cost-effective as we can.
Right. Dr. Pickles, can you share with us at the board retreat, you shared an example of, I guess, one principal covering 2 schools? Is that still your
And we had even talked if
recommendation?
the enrollment had dropped, and possibly having one principal over the 3 schools. So, and Mr. Alford's very familiar with this. In Taylor County, there's one principal over the primary and the elementary school. And the enrollments, Mr. Alford, what did you tell me the enrollments were, like 600 and 800?
Yeah, it's a large number, but
They're large numbers.
Even if we have someone between multiple schools, we still need someone on school site that's acting as a person in charge.
Because in your large schools in Taylor County, there is an AP at each site, and then you do have oversight of the principal between the 2 schools.
Right, and the reason why I mention it, because I didn't want that to blindside the public, just like a few other issues. So I just wanted to I wanted you to expound on that.
And the issue that it was brought up, our problem with our schools is the distance the principal would have to drive for the oversight. because there is the distance between the three schools. So,
At one time, this was back probably in '06, we had the guidance counselor at Lee was also the guidance counselor at Pinetta and at Greenville. She went between all three schools. The Lee faculty that are here that may remember when Ms. Rutherford was between all three schools, that it was a year or two.
Yeah, but
So-
you had said that was a problem because of the distance of the drive.
But what I'm saying is, we did it because we cut money, and that's how we built our fund balance up to 12%. I mean, we did what we had to do.
It's
And-
not
and
always convenient
It's
to do
not
that.
always convenient, and we have to do what we have to do to build it up, and that's how we built it up, was that Ms. Rutherford was going between three different schools, being guidance counselor, curriculum coordinator, and,
If that's gonna assist with the fund balance, yes, we need to work on that.
well, any position we have is going to help the fund balance.
And we also mentioned in that retreat about the furlough days also, that would help with the fund balance also.
so we'll just address the second bullet point through the staffing allocation plan. Do we have a consensus that that's the way we want to go?
I would like to do that.
Yes.
Okay.
I'm sorry, what was the question?
On our sheet, do we just want to look at the old enrollment monitoring and do a very strict through our staffing?
Well, I think we actually are going to do that with all the schools, right? I
These
mean,
these are things I want to make sure
Yeah.
are very spelled out.
Okay.
And do our shifts in staff and administrative through, and just know that due to a drop in enrollment, people should possibly have to be moved around.
And we'll put a lead teacher at each school?
No. If it's less than 200,
Well, whatever the board comes up with. Okay. Another suggestion that became very popular was a 4-day week, either a Monday or a Friday. And as long as we statutorily meet credit and time, that is very doable. And as long as, with Ms. Roberts, we meet the contract, stay within our contract. So is that something the board would consider? And I can gather more information.
I would consider it.
And
because
then
I'd
we
like-
could go,
Yeah.
I understand there's some districts in Georgia
I
that.
know it's not being done in Florida, but I mean,
In
just,
Georgia, they
I'd like
are.
to know how much you would actually
We
save.
could save our transportation, which is a huge cost for us, so transportation, and then there's
Dollars
the
and
other
cents, so, you know,
overhead.
how much we would actually save.
Okay. So do I have
I
the
mean-
consensus to research that one?
I would like that.
I'd like to,
I mean, it has a lot of great points. It has some points we need to be somewhat open-minded about and really look at. But I mean, it has some points that are worth looking at.
Okay. As I shared with you when we met, it's coming from about shared resources with our neighboring districts, our consortiums, or other vendors. So there's the next three. The example I used was regarding fleet management. So does the board have any interest in me exploring options with ways that my neighboring counties, we can share our resources for fleet management, other departments, custodial services? What other options we think we can try to pool our resources together?
I think it wouldn't hurt to explore any options at this point.
I
mean,
agree.
you know, we don't know, so I mean, we won't know until we explore.
Right.
I'm a big proponent of community partners, but in this case, district partners, and so
Okay.
anything we can do to help with the situation, I'm for that.
I did have a recommendation, was to eliminate the block schedule from the high school. It would cut down on the instructional need. Those instructors, teachers could be used at the middle grades at our central. And it would also aid in filling classes and scheduling for students, because there seems to be some scheduling issues. But we could
And everybody.
shift
with-
some people around.
With eliminating the block, clarify this for the public, then students will go to the
We would
class
go to
7
a
days,
state-
5 days a week.
Well, 5 or 4, whichever. Right now, it would be 7 periods, 5 days a week, instead of a Monday, Wednesday, Friday, or Tuesday, Thursday,
So you need a
Friday.
motion, Dr. Pickles?
Yes.
I make the
I would
motion.
prefer a motion, yes.
I make the motion to eliminate the block schedule at Madison County High School.
I second it.
We have a motion to eliminate the block schedule at Madison County High School. Motion made by Mr. Alford, second by Ms. Bell, was it? Ms. Bell? Any questions or discussions?
Madam Chairman?
Yes.
Are you actually voting to eliminate it as of an effective date?
No.
Or are you voting to talk about it on the 24th?
I thought you wanted us to vote on it right now.
I would.
This
I mean,
is not an immediate, this is for next year.
No, it won't happen now.
You're talking about for 2018?
Yeah,
For next year.
1920.
yes, yes.
These are all
Yeah.
for next year, for 1920.
But did you want us to approve?
I did
this?
want you to
Yeah, I
vote,
thought
because they're going to have to start building Skipmaster schedules.
We have did you get that, Miss Becky? Okay. By any discussion or questions? By a show of hands, all in favor? Opposed? 5-0.
Ms. Gibson. Mr. Wade.
We cannot ask. I'm sorry. What was that?
Can I please ask a question?
This is not time for public input right now.
No, I'm not asking for public input. I want to ask a question to get clarification from the board. That's different from public.
Can it be asked after the meeting?
No, ma'am, we probably should be asking now during the meeting.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay. My question is, if this is a workshop, and you all open the meeting by saying that there will be no decisions made here tonight, voting, I'm trying to understand how it is that you're carrying and motions, and you're actually making them, instead of referring every action that you concur with to the January 24th agenda. I'm just asking a question.
Well, we did vote. We've been voting. We voted on 4 different issues already
Right,
today.
My point is,
So just
are
need
you
to be a
voting to carry
consensus.
it to the 24th agenda? Because this is a workshop, and as I understand with the workshop, you do discussions, you do the accepting of recommendations and so forth and so on, but it's not a final action.
No, this is a special session. That's what we call this. Go ahead.
We can just put it on.
And in the workshop, you're right, you don't take official action.
I'm sorry, I can't hear you, Mr. Reed.
Okay, in a workshop, you're right, you don't take official action. What they just did, though, was they said for next school year. They really can't bind next school year today anyway. They're giving the superintendent instructions about how to prepare for next year. That will be brought back at a later date. I understand it was put in the form of a motion to do it, but it doesn't have binding effect. That all is just an instruction to the superintendent how to prepare for next year.
If it has no binding effect, then it seems ludicrous for you to be doing it. Exactly.
Well,
I mean, it seems like you would be making recommendations, and once you made the recommendations, the overall motion would be to send these items to the agenda for the 24th. I understand that. I'm just trying to make sure that we're staying in the sunshine, that we're staying with integrity as we ought to be conducting our meetings.
okay.
Thank you. All right.
The last suggestion was to host the Boys and Girls Club at a central location. So what's the consensus of the board?
I'd like to know a little bit more about the Boys and Girls Club and what actually goes on at the schools. You know, that is something I'm interested in.
I'll contact
What
them
is
and
the-
ask them to give a presentation.
What's
But
the purpose and what they do?
The reason the suggestion came.
Excuse me, thank you.
The reason for the suggestion that was given is it would cut down the overhead cost at their school site.
Okay, now, let's see, at a central, now, for instance, if it's
At
held
one central
Okay.
facility,
Well,
school
let's just say
facility.
it's held at Central. Now, does that mean we have to come in from Pinetta and Lee and Greenville and all that to take them to Central?
If they want to
And-
participate, yes.
If they want to participate. I wonder if that's a cost well, we can explore that.
Okay.
We can explore that.
I'll ask for the Boys and Girls
Yeah.
Club to come to a presentation.
Okay.
Would a bus run from Greenville, Pontiac, and Lee and bring them into?
They'd have to.
The Inwood?
All right, was there anything else, Dr. Pickles?
Those were the ones that were put in the box or emailed to me.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Pickles. All right, do I have a motion to adjourn?
I
Do you
need
have
to,
something?
I need
Okay.
to ask for clarification with Dr. Pickles concerning the algebra teacher at MCHS. I've had concerns concerning it's on the computer, and parents are concerned that their children are having trouble with it, that the midterm doesn't end until February, and they're questioning how are they going to be able to get their credit for it. And we need to have some clarification on this, because parents are feeling concerned for their kids, and their kids are having a hard time. And I personally think we need someone in there guiding it. I know they say there may be someone, but again, we need to try to do more. And I have concerns that the midterms are not going to end until February. How are they going to be able to graduate by May if your midterm only ends in February? How are you going to make up that time to be able to finish it by May for ones to make sure they get a full credit?
Right now, do they have a substitute in there?
I'm
I
not-
think they do.
Yes.
But I mean, a sub is not a teacher. You know, that's what bothers me also, because to teach algebra, I couldn't go in there and teach it.
Oh,
I mean, I'm a teacher, but I can't teach algebra.
Well,
you know.
just the whole thing of it being on the computer for the kids who maybe aren't doing well by learning off the computer, they need someone there to explain stuff. And again,
I agree.
And if you're someone who's gifted in it, it's probably no trouble. But if you're someone who struggles in math, it could be really hard for the child. And I have concerns that a parent complained to me that midterms would not end until February. Well, if it ends in February, how in the world are you going to be able to do another semester from February to May where they can get the full credit? Understand what I'm saying?
Yes.
When the first semester, it should have ended in December, and then you go from January until May. I'm just concerned. I don't want kids winding up where they don't get.
Mr. Alford, I can't comment on a legal issue at this time.
Well, I'm not asking that. I'm asking that we need to put someone in there to help these kids. I'm not asking for a legal issue. We need someone in there to help the kids with this algebra.
Possibly.
Or knowing what we're going to do.
This could be addressed, Mr. Alfred, on the 24th when we.
Okay.
Okay. I mean, I think it should be addressed.
Again, I'm not asking for any legal issues. I'm asking about a teacher.
I don't think this is a legal issue. It's just, I mean, if I was a parent of a child taking algebra, I'd want to have a certified teacher in there.
Or at
And I
least,
am.
is
you
your
are.
child in there?
Yes, my daughter is actually one of those students, and that, that's a critical subject, especially algebra, and she's, preparing for the next level and everything, so, and she often asks me when, where, how, who, how much longer, so those are good, valid questions, I think, for algebra students not to have an algebra teacher present, I think we should make an asserted effort to try to do something a little more than substitution.
I know it's difficult to get math teachers and science teachers, but possibly from within the district, we can find someone who's qualified to do that.
Again, I understand the issues with it, but some of these classes are honors classes. And again, it's just not fair to the children.
No, it's
not. It's not fair to the children. And the last thing I would like, in order for us to get a better understanding of what we spend, I feel that it is imperative that the board starts reviewing bills weekly. I don't know how the other board members feel about it, but until we get a better handle of our fund balance, I think it is in our best interest, the district's best interest, and our fund balance best interest to review the bills weekly. If we have to start meeting once a week where we go over bills that are going to be paid, so we have an idea of what's being paid.
I think they've done that in the past, haven't they, Mr. Alford?
Years ago, we did. And again, not that I think the board needs to micromanage, but I do think as board members and us being ultimately responsible for the budget and what's being spent, we have a duty to do this, and we need to do this at this point.
And like you said, we are responsible, the five of us, not Dr. Pickles, not Mr. Copeland. It's going to come down on us. So yes, we
Absolutely.
need to, I would suggest that we do that also.
How, Ms. Williamson, how do you feel about it?
I think we should do it.
Ms. Bell?
That's fine.
I agree.
Other items of interest, Dr. Pickles?
None at this time. We'll meet on the 24th.
Okay.
Actually, you'll be receiving a list from me hopefully tomorrow with all the personnel, and then we will meet on the 24th.
Mr. Reeves?
No, ma'am.
Ms. Williamson?
No.
Ms. Bell?
I would like to thank everybody for coming out tonight, but I encourage you to listen to everything that's being said. I want y'all to do your own research and your monitoring on what's going on. Just keep your eyes open. I'm only dealing with the hands that I was dealt and what I was told. Just be very cautious, because I don't want to lose our county.
Mr. Alford?
I want to thank Dr. Pickles and Mr. Copeland for all their work in getting this together. Again, they've been thrown into something just like we have on January the 4th to get this news, and I appreciate their work in seeing what needs to be cut and relaying it to us. Mr. Reeves for all his work and helping with this. Ms. Gibson for all your work and as the chairman. I want to thank all the people who have come out and the teachers that are here. And again, thank you.
And, yeah, I just wanted to briefly thank all of the community for coming out, showing your support, and your love for the schools in the district, and continue to support the district. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
I'd also like to offer my thanks. If you weren't interested, you wouldn't be here, and we invite you to come to all of our meetings. The next meeting will be Thursday, January 24th, 6 o'clock, same place. Thank you.